finally found a moment to care for the garden, while Lena took a much-needed shower. Later on, the two teamed up to prepare lunch, and Lena momentarily forgot about watering the plants only for Isla to remind her that she had already taken care of it. Feeling proud, Lena remarked that her friend was doing just fine without Light, and added that she was certain he would be proud as well. As the image of the cherished master of fruits emerged in the sky, Light suddenly appeared, proving he hadn't perished after all. Without hesitation, the girls pulled him back to bed, where he still needed to rest, despite having already slept for 2 full days. While settling him in, Lena realized that his fever had gone down, but that didn't mean they could afford to lower their guard just yet. That's why she had brought him lunch, which included dodo breast, vegetable soup, and lemonade sweetened with honey. On that note, she mentioned that the group had received a mandatory summons from the Adventurers Guild to provide more details about the emergence of the evil dragon. Light wanted to go along, but Isla firmly insisted that he still needed to rest. When they arrived at the guild, Lena was told they would be escorted to the conference room in 2 hours. Annoyed by the long wait despite being summoned, she voiced her frustration, but the receptionist explained that the officials were occupied. On top of that, she also pointed out that Isla wouldn't be allowed into the conference room since she hadn't officially registered as an adventurer yet. Lena immediately asked to register Isla on the spot, prompting the clerk to hand her a form to fill out. Meanwhile, the adventurers nearby cast judgmental glances at Isla, seeing her as just a child signing up at the guild. This made her question whether she truly belonged there, especially since, unlike the others, she didn't have any impressive gear. Lena pointed out that Isla had an impressive skill assessment, though she understood that for kids, looking cool often seemed more important than having a practical ability. Keeping that in mind, she suggested they go shopping since they had time to kill anyway. Isla hesitated, saying she didn't have the money for it, but Lena reassured her not to worry, reminding her that she was like a little sister to her and insisting on buying the equipment herself. Meanwhile, Light was at home, dying of boredom. Back to the girls, they bought ice cream on the way, and Isla was excited that they were going shopping together. Seeing so many stores on the street, Isla was amazed and ran to check out one called Ultra Luxury Shop. Honestly, Lena thought the store looked like it only sold knockoffs, but Isla didn't care and ran inside. As they browsed, Lena insisted they should visit a less dubious shop, but Isla, using her skill to evaluate an item on display, identified it as a rough diamond. The shopkeeper, however, challenged her assertion, arguing that it couldn't possibly be a rough diamond since no one would be interested in purchasing one. Yet, before he could finish his argument, Lena stepped in, offering several gold coins and promptly purchasing the piece. Outside, she crafted a necklace for her friend using the diamond as a pendant. After that, the two went to the tailor shop, Rainbow Gown, where the shopkeeper offered them to try her latest works. Lena made it clear she was only looking for clothes for Isla, but ended up being dragged into the fitting room and practically coerced into trying on the suggested outfits. Before long, she emerged wearing the most elegant and exotic dresses, some of which were a bit over the top for her age. Growing tired of the endless try-ons, Lena dropped to her knees and shouted that she was there to buy something for Isla. Finally grasping what the customer meant, the shop owner presented a cat-eared outfit for the child. Isla admitted she was looking for something else, so Lena encouraged her friend to speak up about what she wanted, loudly and clearly, as that would build confidence. After all, the girl was an essential part of their group and needed to act like it. Feeling more confident, Isla told the shopkeeper she wanted to be like Lena and wear cool clothes that made her look like a real adventurer. Later, the two returned to the guild and were called into the conference room. This time, Isla was dressed in her new outfit and felt much better about it. Meanwhile, Light was doing push-ups to keep boredom at bay. The pixie slapped him, insisting he should return to bed. In response, Light explained that he had already been doing nothing but sleeping for 2 straight days. Despite his protests, the pixie dragged Light back to bed and made sure he stayed put. Unconvinced, he pondered that, at this moment, his friends were likely receiving high praise for defeating the evil dragon, while he had to endure lectures from 3-centimeter pixies. Still, the young man didn't give up and decided to go to the guild. Back at the guild, Lena and Isla were escorted to the meeting room, with the receptionist stressing how crucial Lena's participation was. Lena, eager to help, expressed her willingness to cooperate. However, at the same time, she quietly resolved that she had no intention of simply handing over all her information and walking away, especially since she had accepted the invitation to uncover the origin of Dreitna, as someone had sent her to kill Lena and her friends. Moreover, only the Adventurers Guild knew that the group was heading to the Monty Count's mansion, meaning it was possible that the superiors were involved. For this reason, it was worth tossing out the words Dreitna and Black Swan to see how these people would react. Before long, Lena and Isla arrived at the conference room, where the members of the 4 bureaus were already gathered, awaiting Lena's arrival. Upon overhearing a man refer to these individuals, Isla curiously asked what the 4 bureaus were. The receptionist clarified that the 4 bureaus represented the main departments of the guild. For instance, as the core of the Holy City, the guild comprised the bureaus of inspection, finance, security, and investigation, and the leaders of each department were present at this meeting. In other words, the most powerful figures within the organization were right there in the room. Flower Hat is the head of investigation, responsible for monster ecology and density research. Tiger Beard is the head of security, in charge of maintaining public order. The Gravekeeper is the chief financial officer, responsible for handling rewards and all money-related matters. The final member on the list is the individual responsible for upholding order across the entire guild, the chief inspector, known as the Holy Sister. The sister emphasizes that Lena did a fantastic job at the old mansion of Count Montes and is glad the adventurer is well. Honestly, Lena would prefer not to see this woman again, but she is keen to see how she reacts. Isla asks the receptionist about the Holy Sister, who explains that she oversees the inspection bureau and stands above the other departments, making her the most influential figure in the guild. Curious, Isla wonders what kind of ability someone of such high prestige might have, but the answer only leaves her perplexed. During this, the sister asks Lena about the wicked dragon, but Lena would like to ask something first. In the mansion they were hired to investigate, the group was attacked by a woman who introduced herself as Dratna of the Black Swan, and Lena wants to know if anyone present knows anything about this woman. The Holy Sister expresses her regret over not having any knowledge of the situation. Tiger Beard, on the other hand, is eager to face the individuals capable of summoning such a dragon. Flower Hat plans to investigate the matter further at the Great Library. Meanwhile, Gravekeeper reminds everyone that accessing personal records requires their explicit authorization. Regardless, the sister stresses that the most important thing now is to find out where the dragon has gone, as urgent action is required regarding this chaos. Lena is irritated to see that the sister dodged the question while the Holy Sister orders Flower Hat to report her progress. In response, Flower Hat informs them that she had dispatched a reconnaissance bird, but no trace of the dragon was found at the Montes Count's mansion. She adds that if they had a piece of the dragon's body, they could track its mana. Upon hearing this, Lena reveals a scale from the creature, leaving everyone stunned. However, before handing it over, she sets a condition: she must be granted access to all records concerning Dratna. The four bureaus agree to Lena's terms, though the Holy Sister cautions that she might not find the answers she's seeking. Nevertheless, the deal is struck, and Flower Hat activates her ability, Scholar's Eye, which enables her to read anything written on paper. Using this skill, the investigator accesses the records Lena requested and uncovers that, 12 years ago, in the lake capital of Athena, a girl named Dratna Bellberry received a skill fruit that granted her the power of necromancy. The record revealed that the Holy Sister had served as the evaluation officer on that particular day. With this information, Lena accuses the sister of dishonesty, as she had claimed not to know Dratna. The Holy Sister defends herself, explaining that she grants abilities to around 1,000 people each year, making it impossible to remember one individual from 12 years ago. With that response, Lena knows she can't press the woman any further, but at least she has a clue. Then the sister stands to leave and thanks Lena for her help, but makes it clear that from today onwards, all records of Lena's group will be erased. Lena and Isla are stunned and immediately ask why. The chief explains that the leader of the Sacred, Grouse, had accused Lena's of using violence against him and stealing his equipment. This revelation sets off a wave of chatter in the conference room, with everyone openly criticizing Light's behavior, but in that moment, Light himself arrives at the room with the most carefree face, eager to receive his deserved praises. However, upon noticing the tense atmosphere, he asks what's going on. Then, the Holy Sister explains that their group's records will be erased for violating guild rules. Light casually responds he does not about it, reasoning that whether registered or not, the three of them still make up the same group and will carry on as such. However, not entirely convinced, the Holy Sister's eyes begin to glow, projecting an image of space within her mind as she focuses on Light, and she is suddenly taken aback by some unexpected information. Because of this, she decides to change her mind and gives their group a chance to redeem themselves with a Rankus monster hunt. If they manage to complete the mission, they will keep their records and receive a hefty reward. Lena asks what happened for the Holy Sister to change her mind so quickly, and she responds that Light's determination touched her heart. Suspecting her intention, Lena asks Light to think carefully, but the guy is only eyeing the big payout and accepts immediately. After all, even if it turns out to be a trap, he won't be able to leave his mark on history without facing such a challenge. Following the meeting, a guild employee distributes pamphlets containing the mission details. However, Lena remains convinced that the Holy Sister is scheming against them, emphasizing the importance of staying vigilant and never letting their guard down. At that moment, Isla shares that she tried to evaluate the sister's ability, but saw nothing, which has never happened before. Next, noticing Light with a sword strapped to his back, Gravekeeper approaches to inform him that weapons are prohibited in the conference room and that he will be fined 1,000 gold coins for violating the rule. Light counters by explaining that the sword is broken, so it doesn't even count as a weapon. In response, the chief financial officer imposes a fine of 5,000 gold to compensate for the guild's sword that Light had broken. Furthermore, when Light checks a section to see his options, he learns that he is now banned from borrowing any more swords, having already broken two. Despite the mishap, the young man views this as an opportunity to fulfill his dream of owning his his own sword. The receptionist suggests having one custom made, explaining that a unique weapon tailored to the wielder's characteristics is far more effective. Inspired by this, Light leaves the guild determined to place an order for his custom sword right away, since it might take a few days for the weapon to be completed. Lena suggests using the time to visit Athena and follow up on the clue she has about Dratna. With the plan set, the rest of the group agrees, and they part ways after a shared farewell. A while later, in the Tradesman's District, Light was voicing his complaints inside a shop he had heard was known for having a quality workshop. The clerk informed him that most workshops in this area were affiliated with the Holy Sister, meaning that few would be willing to assist them. Still, Light asked for help, eager to get his hands on a sword. In response, the man suggested he try his luck at Bolst Workshop on the west side. This particular workshop carried the name of the skilled smith who ran it, though Bolst had been dealing with some difficulties. Undeterred, Light grew excited and asked the clerk to write him a letter of introduction. Meanwhile, Lena sat inside a carriage, keeping her hood up to avoid attracting attention, all the while wondering if her companions were doing all right. Over on the west side of the Tradesman's District, Light was delighted by the way everything was crafted there, while Isla was equally excited at the thought of seeing a sword forged by a legendary smith. Suddenly, they were caught off guard by a girl who darted between them, fleeing from a group of men. Trapped in a dead-end alley, she was cornered by her pursuers and attacked, but just in time, Light arrived to stop them from harming her. One of the men, frustrated by the interference, swung his mace, nearly striking the intruding boy. Having narrowly avoided danger, Light instructed the frightened girl to stay behind him. Though she appeared worried, he reassured her that the sword god could handle these three without any trouble. With that, Light unsheathed his broken sword and struck the first adversary in the stomach with the pommel. Seeing their comrade collapse, his panicked companions quickly picked him up and carried him away, bringing the fight to an end. Grateful for the rescue, the girl introduced herself as Monica, and upon learning their names, she immediately embraced Isla like a teddy bear because, in her opinion, nothing was more captivating than an adorable little girl. As a token of appreciation, Monica then invited them both to enjoy some tea and pancakes. Although Isla was eager to dig in, Light chose to turn down the invitation for now, as they were on their way to Bolst Workshop. Taken aback, Monica revealed that the workshop belonged to her, though the playful smile on her face suggested there was more to the story. Regardless, she offered to take the adventurers there and led the way. After a while, the group arrived at the destination. Inside, Light noticed that the workshop was empty and asked where the other smiths were. Monica explained that she ran the place and took care of all the forges by herself, meaning they were actually standing in Monica's workshop. As a token of gratitude for being rescued, Monica was excited to present her finest creation. Without delay, she unveiled a highly efficient frying pan shaped like a pancake. Additionally, the mold was interchangeable, allowing it to be swapped out for different designs. She proudly introduced this invention as the Monica Pan. For the reasonable price of 2,000 gold coins, this incredible set could be yours. However, since Monica considered herself a generous person, she was willing to offer it at half the price. Concerning this, Light thought the frying pan was too expensive. Plus, when the pancake goes into the belly, the shape is always the same. Frustrated, Monica admitted that no one wanted to buy her innovative product. By the way, she had tried to sell it to those guys, but they thought it was a scam and attacked her. On that note, Monica mentioned that she had been focusing more on crafting household tools rather than weapons. Light's attention was drawn to a hoe blade sitting on the counter, as he explained that he grows fruit and harvesting it is quite a laborious task. Sensing an opportunity, Monica asked to examine the adventurer's hand, and after taking a good look at its shape, she immediately set to work on crafting something. Working at the forge with a morsite or ingot, Monica caught Isla's attention, who was amazed by Monica's super forge skill, a technique that allowed the user to assign desired properties to a blade with each hammer strike. Next, Monica bent the heated part, turned it into a sharp blade, and added her signature as the final touch. In no time, Monica had crafted a custom-made harvesting scissor for the farmer. To put it to the test, she handed Light a log, though he was skeptical that such a small scissor could slice through something so tough. However, the moment he closed the blades, the log split cleanly in half, leaving him completely stunned by the unparalleled efficiency of his newest tool. Pleased that Light was impressed with her creation, Monica was about to name her price when Light suddenly cut her off, requesting that she forge a sword for him instead. After all, the entire reason he had come was to seek out her renowned skills to craft the best sword possible. However, lowering her head, Monica explained that it wasn't an option, not because her workshop was aligned with the Holy Sister, but for a different reason entirely. In truth, she simply didn't want to make swords anymore, as she despised those weapons. Unfortunately, she hadn't been successful in selling her household tools, yet her dream was to prove her worth as a craftswoman, even without forging swords. At that moment, Light recalled that the guide had specifically mentioned this workshop specialized in weapon making. It was then that Monica realized the boy had actually been looking for the shop across the street which, coincidentally, also carried the name Bolst. Inside that workshop, a smith ran up to the master to report that only 20% of the orders orders were ready so far. The boss replied that complaining wouldn't make the work go any faster, so everyone should do their best. Amidst this, Light and Isla entered the workshop alongside Monica. All the smiths appeared uneasy with Monica's presence, so much so that when one of them approached to ask what she was doing there, the shop's boss immediately frowned. Without hesitation, Monica asked her father to forge a sword for the customer. Annoyed, her father grumbled that she was always avoiding dealing with customers and constantly passing them off to him, which quickly escalated into a heated argument between the two. Annoyed, Monica decided to leave there, but before departing, Light asked if it really wasn't possible for his sword to be made. The man explained that he was busy with a huge order for the next semester, so no chance. As Light stepped out of the store, he couldn't shake the thought that it would be amazing if Monica were the one to craft his weapon, but he had no idea how to persuade her. Just then, one of the blacksmiths called out to him by name, introducing himself as someone who worked for Monica's father, Evil. Light was baffled as to how this boy knew his name, prompting the blacksmith to explain that he had seen him during his duel against Grouse. The gap in strength between them had been so evident that Cain never forgot Light to the point where he even became a fan, recognizing the importance of his triumph. Since the topic had come up, Light scratched his head and admitted that the fight had stirred up a major issue with the Holy Sister, resulting in everyone who sided with her now keeping their distance from him. With that, the guy understood why Light had come to Bolst, as they were the only ones not aligned with the Holy Sister. And speaking of which, Light asked why father and daughter had separate workshops, so Cain told the story Monica used to work in Evil's workshop too. 3 years ago, when she gained the super forge ability, they quickly became very famous throughout the Holy City. However, 6 months earlier, a carriage transporting goods was ambushed on the outskirts of the city, and during the attack, Evil's mother lost her life. The culprits were eventually captured, but among them, one carried a sword that bore Monica's signature. Upon discovering that one of her own creations had been used to take her grandmother's life, Monica was devastated so much so that she developed a deep hatred for swords. After hearing the story, Light questioned why Monica and her father didn't get along. However, before Cain could respond, two men approached, asking for Evil. One of them, a brown-haired man, was Doug, while the other was Zamdo, both representatives of the Black Swan Merchant Group and clients of Bolst. Upon spotting the workshop's boss, Zamdo handed over a new order request, informing him that the weekly deliveries would now be extended to a full year. Cain complained that it was absurd, as they barely managed the weekly deliveries already. Doug replied that since the father couldn't manage, they would ask Monica, the girl with the super forge ability, a skill so rare that some blacksmiths would kill just to possess it. Light argued that Monica didn't want to make swords, but Zamdo assured that a little violence could change anyone's mind. Seeing the lightning crackling from the man's hand, Isla immediately realized what that could only mean. Regardless, Evil calmly stated that he had never claimed he could fulfill the order. In reality, he had already signed the contract. With that, the Black Swan representatives departed. After they were gone, one of Evil's employees revealed that this merchant group was using Monica as leverage to force these deals, leaving Evil with no choice but to comply in order to protect his daughter. Since her father forged weapons, Monica couldn't bear to share the same workshop with him. Before anything else, Evil turned to Light and asked him not to mention any of this to Monica. Later that night, Light and Isla knocked on Monica's workshop and invited her to dinner. Without delay, the trio was already at a restaurant enjoying a good meal, and Monica was impressed to discover that Isla had the appraisal skill because it's a very important technique in any workshop. However, Isla mentioned that she only wished to adventure alongside Light and not become a craftsman. Monica praised her honesty and remarked that it must be amazing to be loved by such a kind girl. Overjoyed, she eagerly promised to cover the bill and even let Isla order more pizza, her absolute favorite food. Light, however, recalled that they were the ones who had invited Monica in the first place, meaning she wasn't obligated to pay. Even so, she insisted that she still needed to repay them for saving her. Besides, she was genuinely happy, as it had been 6 months since she had shared a meal with company. With that in mind, Light tossed aside his nice guy salad and instead ordered a pizza topped with mushrooms, grilled meat seasoned with herbs, and a glass of grape juice. Meanwhile, Zamdo paid a visit to the Holy Sister, informing her that the weapons were already on their way. However, the most important news was that Light had made an appearance in the craftsman's district. Regarding this, the henchman assured her that he would bring the boy in soon, whether peacefully or not. Thus, the Holy Sister announced she would send a spy so that the security bureau wouldn't interfere, but made it clear she didn't want Light dead. Returning to Monica, she left the restaurant full, but Doug appeared again, wanting to chat with her. Monica recognized the man and didn't feel comfortable talking to him. However, another man suddenly appeared from behind her and captured Monica. Nearby, Isla stressed that Monica was truly a great person, even if she had refused to forge Light's sword. Suddenly, Cain came rushing over, urging Light to come to their workshop immediately. Once they arrived, Cain pointed to a note that had been attached to the workshop door, alongside Monica's safety goggles. As Isla explained, the message read, "Monica is with us. If you want her back, send Light alone to the underground arena." Another blacksmith approached and explained that this arena was the base of the Black Swan Merchant Group and was located located near the craftsman's district. Amid this, Ivil left the forge wielding a huge two-handed axe and carrying a spear on his back. One of the employees asked the boss to be careful, as he could be ambushed by enemies if not cautious. Despite the warning, Ivil refused to stand by and do nothing while they took his daughter. However, Light declared that he would go alone, as the Black Swan had specifically requested only him, leaving no reason for Ivil to put himself in danger. With that decision made, Light rushed ahead, instructing them to look after Isla in the meantime. Monica woke in an unknown place, and Doug smiled as he told her that Monica was just bait and that Light would be captured when he came to rescue her. Said and done, Light blasted the entrance and, ironically, thanked them for the invitation. Doug ordered Monica to be released. Then, the massive creature advanced toward Light, its heavy footsteps echoing with each step. Monica cried out, urging Light to run, but there was no time left. He was already under attack from all sides. Despite this, Light stayed composed, summoned the sleep fairy, and instantly put all his enemies to sleep, including the bull. With that done, he freed Monica and safely brought her back. A while later, Light arrived at the entrance of the workshop with Monica on his back. Along the way, she had accidentally inhaled some of the sleep dust, but Light reassured everyone that she was simply having a light nap and would be fine. In the end, for everything Light had done, Ivil expressed his gratitude. Back with the Holy Sister, the boy who always accompanied her questioned whether it was truly necessary to expend so many resources just to capture Light. She affirmed that it was because discovering whether he was truly a priori was of utmost importance. Zamdo rode in his carriage toward Monica's location, his mind still lingering on the Holy Sister's cryptic words about preserving Light. Her insistence on the child's importance puzzled him. Why did she value Monica so much? But what truly mattered was that by now, he should have already fallen into the carefully prepared trap, with Zamdo arrive only to reap the rewards. However, the moment he stepped into the room where Monica was held, he was met with an unexpected scene. All of his men lay on the floor, merely asleep. At the Bolst workshop, Light listened as Ivil offered his deepest regrets for dragging him into his problems. However, the protagonist reminded him that the Black Swan wasn't just targeting the blacksmith's daughter, it was after Light as well. On that note, Ivil made up his mind to sever all ties with the sinister merchant group. Even if it meant his earnings would drop to nothing for a while, nothing held greater value than the safety of his family. As the conversation unfolded, Monica hurried down the stairs and asked if her father intended to stop making weapons. Ivil responded that he wouldn't, but he needed to find a more trustworthy buyer. After all, when it comes to the items that can be crafted in a forge, weapons and equipment hold the greatest value. Offended by the remark, given that she no longer crafts weapons, Monica hesitated before reluctantly agreeing. Her father then added that if he wanted to keep his business afloat, he had to produce valuable items. After all, he had been running this workshop for 25 years and took great pride in the confidence that experience had given him. Feeling indignant, Monica demands to know if her father isn't bothered by the fact that the product of his pride is being used for evil. However, weakened by the effects of the sleeping powder, she begins to lose strength and nearly collapses. Ivil's wife, who is tending to Monica's recovery, intervenes and suggests that the discussion be postponed, as the girl needs to rest. On that note, Ivil invites Light to stay the night at the workshop, as it is already too late to search for another place. His wife insists on the offer, kindly preparing clothes and a bath for both him and Isla. Completely exhausted, when asked for her opinion, Isla only wants to lie down right away. With that settled, Light expresses his gratitude for their hospitality and accepts the invitation. As they were being led to the room, Light couldn't help but comment on how important this shop seemed to be for everyone. The woman smiled, explaining that everyone admired Ivil and dreamed of working there forever. Curious, Light asked if she also crafted weapons, but she shook her head, clarifying that she wasn't a craftswoman. Instead, she managed the cooking, laundry, and childcare. In other words, she was a housewife. That's why, when her husband and Monica argue, she prefers not to interfere, as these matters involve the essence of being a craftsman, which she indeed does not understand. So the woman feels she doesn't have much influence over the two. Light disagrees because Monica often speaks positively of her stepmother, so she should have more confidence in herself. Later, instead of sleeping, Monica sat on her balcony, staring at a dagger in her hand. Light approached and asked if she was feeling better, to which she replied that she was the effects of the sleeping powder had completely worn off. Curious about Isla's condition, Monica asked how she was doing, and Light reassured her that she was resting peacefully. Apparently, while he went to rescue Monica, Isla had waited outside until they returned. With that, he questions what Monica is holding, and she explains that it was the first dagger she made as a child. Although her father rarely praises anyone, when he saw that his daughter produced that weapon, he said she had a knack for it, and Monica was remembering how that made her happy. When she acquired the super forge skill, Monica was sure that her destiny was to be a blacksmith. However, as she examined the dagger now, it was evident that it had turned out slightly crooked. Light then asked if she had a great deal of respect for her father. Monica confirmed that she did, as he was the one who had taught her everything she knew about forging. She had witnessed the workshop's entire journey, watching it grow and attract more and more apprentices. By the way, Light asks if she thinks it would be possible for her friend to reconcile with her father. She replies replies that for her, working in the forge yielded good compliments, good friends, and good money, just fun things that she loved. But after the incident with her grandmother, Monica realized there was more to it. By then, she had already made several swords around the world, so she started to fear making more and decided not to stay in the workshop with her father. Seizing the moment, Monica asked if Light had ever taken a life. Though he hesitated for a few seconds before responding, he eventually admitted that he had. He explained that his opponents were undead, though they had once been human. Initially, he doubted whether he would be capable of such a thing, but in the end, he resolved that if it meant protecting Isla, he would do whatever was necessary. About this, honestly, Monica no longer knows if swords are good or bad things, so she asks if Light uses weapons for good. He considers that yes, but emphasizes that his concept of what is good or not might be different from hers. For example, he questions if Monica considers it good that he, as an adventurer, eliminates his enemies. Thinking about it, Monica is not sure, but she admits she likes it when someone fights to achieve their dreams. Hours later, Doug slowly opened his eyes and found himself trapped in the same place where Monica had been held, only to see his boss standing before him. Confused, he asked what was happening, to which Zamdo explained that Doug was already there when he had arrived. On that note, Zamdo wondered if Doug would be weak enough to simply swallow this humiliation, as he already had a plan ready to be set in motion, and this time, he vowed to crush Light with his own hands. Zamdo informs his men that they will set off at dawn. The next morning, Isla hurries to call Light for breakfast. As he heads to the kitchen, he asks about Evil and his apprentices, only to learn from the boss's wife that they're already hard at work. Impressed by their early start, Light moves to take a seat at the table, but before he can sit, Isla warns him that only Monica is allowed to sit there. Monica's stepmother affirmed that they did, in fact, keep that seat open for the girl. On that note, she asked Light if he could bring Monica's breakfast to her room later, as she might feel too shy to join the other guests in the kitchen. Later, Light can't find Monica in her room, but eventually spots her in the garden of the workshop. He delivers her meal and expresses surprise at her not being in her own workshop. Monica explains that she worried everyone yesterday, so she decided to make it up to them somehow, out in the garden. Light asked if the workshop members grew anything. Monica explained that they did, though this year's harvest had been rather small. In response, Light used his ability to accelerate the growth of the fruits. Seeing his power in action, Monica couldn't help but wonder how he had managed to put the Black Swan men to sleep, as that would require a completely different kind of skill. Then, Light reveals that being the fruit master allows him to consume any skill fruit he desires. Disbelieving, Monica shakes him by the collar and argues that consuming those is fatal, but a suspicious noise suddenly diverts their attention. Inside the workshop, led by Zamdo, the Black Swan's henchmen keep the blacksmiths under control through violence, and Zamdo invites Light for a walk outside. Once outside, Zamdo sarcastically commented that Light had certainly taken good care of his men the previous night. In response, Light remarked that since his opponents hadn't learned their lesson, they would be put to sleep once again. However, as he donned his enlightening armor, the villain effortlessly shook off the effects of the sleeping powder. When the protagonist uses his fairy, Isla says the man possesses the lightning summoning ability, which allows him to surround himself with lightning or launch it. Raising his hand, Zamdo blows up the workshop wall and starts posing an even greater threat, prompting Light to stow his fairy and urge Monica to retreat with Isla. Zamdo grumbled about the door Light had destroyed at their hideout, complaining that it had been quite expensive. However, Light had no patience for jokes, and instead called him out for the audacity of kidnapping Monica. As if trying to justify himself, Zamdo explained that he only needed the blacksmith to forge the necessary swords and was willing to do whatever it took to get them. After all, high-quality swords weren't something one could easily find at a low price. Throwing his own sword to the ground and stepping on it, Zamdo argues that Monica could do amazing things with her skill, unlike the junk he's using, since it was her father who made it. The girl takes offense and insists that all weapons made there are crafted with great effort. Growing weary of the conversation, Light firmly ordered his opponent to lift his foot off the sword. In response, Zamdo offered a deal, promising not to cause any further destruction in the workshop if both of them surrendered. However, Light had his own plan. He vowed to subdue his opponent and personally deliver Zamdo to the security office. From there, the obvious path was violence, and Light wastes no time in attacking the adversary with his broken sword. When Zamdo dodges the blow, the boy picks up the weapon he left on the ground to strike again with a sword god-style blade rush. However, Zamdo manages to keep distance with his lightning armor. Next, as Light hurled 3 electrified metal spheres at his target, Zamdo managed to block the first, but the other 2 struck him directly. Taking significant damage, the Fruit Master collapsed to his knees, while his opponent coolly remarked that if Zamdo truly wanted to defeat him, paralyzing him would have been the quicker approach, but that wouldn't have made for nearly as satisfying a revenge. Zamdo keeps launching more spheres, forcing Light to block them with great effort, though he still gets hit by the last one. Observing the battle, Monica asks Isla to analyze Zamdo's metal spheres. When the girl confirms they are made of iron, Monica isn't certain if her plan will work, but given the situation, she knows it's worth a shot. Using her forging ability, she quickly crafts one of her frying pans and instructs Light to catch the spheres inside it. Frustrated by the turn of events, Zamdo launched another attack, but instead of hitting his target, the spheres were effortlessly caught in the frying pan. Proud of her work, Monica explained that she had designed it to attract iron. Zamdo, though taken aback, admitted he was even more impressed by what the Superforge could do. However, before he could react, Light sent an electric current through the trapped spheres, electrocuting Zamdo on the spot. Ayla assesses the situation and explains that the sword didn't pose a problem because its handle is made of leather, but the frying pan conducts electricity. Obviously, Light is forced to drop the item, but assures that he has learned to protect himself from the trajectory of the spheres. However, observing her partner's defense, Monica notices that his sword is seriously chipped and about to break. Because of this, the blacksmith understands that she must forge a stronger, more resilient sword for him. However, this conflicts with her trauma, which led her to adopt a new code of conduct, one in which she vowed never to create anything that could harm others. Meanwhile, Light struggles to keep his opponent at bay until the security office arrives, but the injuries he has sustained are reaching their breaking point, putting his life in serious danger. Seeing clearly that her friend might die, Monica remembers the conversation they had last night as the fight between him and Zamdo causes even more devastation around them. Thus, Monica calls Ayla and runs to her workshop to resolve the situation once and for all. Meanwhile, on the western Yoruba Plateau, a carriage transported 4 passengers to their final destination, Blue Deer Station. Among them was Lena, who stepped off upon arrival, coinciding with the Athena Fairy Festival. A man inquired whether she had come for the event, but she replied that she was searching for someone. With a long journey still ahead, Lena pressed forward, resolute in her mission to find Dratna. Back at the duel, Light forced another strike with his blade, but Zamdo's electric shield proved impenetrable. In response to the young man's persistence with his weapon, the bandit decided to summon his own by manipulating his lightning. Throughout, Light never seemed to lose confidence. On the contrary, thinking the sword made of lightning couldn't be solid, he struck again. If, as Zamdo had claimed, his rival's weapon was truly as tough as steel, then even lightning, despite having no physical form, could imitate immense hardness when compressed. Even so, Light was convinced that his skill in swordsmanship still gave him the upper hand, and with that belief driving him, he launched himself into the attack. Incredibly, Zamdo managed to manipulate his sword to pierce through the opponent's blade, allowing for a surprise counterattack that hit Light. Yet, even if he had to push his sword god ability to the limit, Light continued the offensive to win the duel. But during an exchange of blows, he took a kick to the stomach that was deeply felt. Despite his worsening injuries, the boy continued to fight, determined not to lose this time. Unleashing the powerful instant whirlwind technique, he sent his opponent crashing into the wall and realized that the wind pressure had an effect on Zamdo. However, to his frustration, the bandit emerged from the impact looking far less shaken than Light had hoped, looking untouched. The man confessed he was just playing swords to make the fight more interesting and to stay on par with Light, but the truth was that the recent gust of wind had really infuriated him. Light mocked that even the way the guy talked had changed, to which he replied that indeed, the fun and games were over. With that, Zamdo commanded Jubatus to take the form of a feline creature forged from lightning. Relying on his previously successful strategy, Light unleashed another instant whirlwind, but this time, the beast sliced through the wind and sank its fangs into his sword. Realizing that his weapon was on the verge of breaking, Light desperately fought to free himself from the creature's grip. However, he was caught off guard by Zamdo's sword, which struck with immense force, triggering a real explosion upon impact. That decisive blow ultimately brought Light down, marking the end of the battle. At the same time, elsewhere, Ayla asks Monica about her next move. Monica responds that she intends to rescue her parents and the others while also forging a sword for Light. Meanwhile, the Holy Sister concentrates on her enigmatic mirror, realizing that everything is unfolding just as she had planned. Back at Bolst's workshop, Zamdo's henchmen are holding all the workers hostage. Monica removes a brick from the wall to get a glimpse inside and evaluate the situation before proceeding with the rescue. As she moves toward the entrance, where 2 henchmen stand guard, she first checks if Ayla still has the item she received from her the day before. The child recalls that she does. With that confirmed, Monica steps forward, drawing the guards' attention and luring them into a chase. Now that the path is clear, it's Ayla's moment to act. Inside, Evil struggles to move his arms but is tightly bound by heavy chains. Suddenly, Ayla sneaks in, crawling silently to free him using the scissors forged by Monica. Their craftsmanship is so exceptional that they slice through the iron restraints as if they were mere paper. However, just then, a henchman emerges behind the girl. Meanwhile, Monica dashes toward a stack of bronze plates, tossing them onto the ground and striking them with her hammer to trigger the Superforge ability. As the thugs pursue her, they unknowingly step onto the plates, which Monica had softened with her technique before hardening them again, effectively trapping their feet. Mocking her foes, Monica leaves them stuck and continues forward, arriving at the entrance of Bolst's workshop without a scratch. Without delay, she bursts into the shop confidently, but panics upon seeing Ayla completely subdued by Doug, Zamdo's right-hand man, who questions what Monica thinks will happen to the girl if she moves. Weighing her options, Monica slowly looks around around and spots a material that could be used in this situation. Isla notices her friend eyeing that resource and uses her evaluation skill to see what it is, gaining confidence that it will work. At the same time, all the blacksmiths in the workshop catch on to Monica's plan and watch with anticipation. Without hesitation, Monica swiftly grabs the ore and hurls it to the ground with force, causing a brilliant glow to erupt. The intense light blinds Doug, forcing him to release Isla as he shields his eyes. Seizing the opportunity, Evil and his workers quickly overpower the thugs and ready a rope to tie them up. Monica commends Isla for her part and asks if she managed to evaluate the stone. The child confirms, explaining that it's a bright stone, capable of emitting a powerful flash upon impact. Frustrated, Doug scoffs at the absurdity of such a young girl possessing an evaluation ability. However, Isla confidently responds that those who underestimate a child always end up paying the price. With the blacksmiths now in full control of the situation, Monica turns to her father and asks if she can use the forge, explaining that Light is fighting Zamdo and needs a sword from her. Though Evil initially scolds her for her reckless actions, he ultimately grants her permission after all. Monica is, and will always be, a blacksmith. Meanwhile, Evil will make use of his quick work ability to stretch the metal efficiently, saving time and leaving the finishing touches of the weapon in his daughter's hands. However, their work is suddenly interrupted by a problem. The Black Swan merchant group is attempting to force their way through the front door, forcing two blacksmiths to press their weight against it to block the door. If needed, Evil commands that a barricade be built, as everyone must be prepared to defend the workshop with their lives. This is the moment to prove the true worth of a craftsman. Motivated by their master's rallying call, the young apprentices come together in a joint effort to transport resources, push the forge forward, and reinforce the gate. As Monica resumes working alongside her father, memories of childhood flood back. She remembers being mesmerized by his skill in the workshop. She even comments on how nostalgic this work feels. But her father quickly reminds her that there's no time for sentimentality now, as the fate of Light rests in her hands. Burdened by the weight of her responsibility, Monica lowers her head, reflecting on the fact that she hasn't forged a sword in 6 months. She remains uncertain whether her swords are good or bad, but this is no time for hesitation. She must face the challenge head-on. With that resolve, Monica activates her super forge ability, drawing the attention of everyone in the workshop as a blue light radiates from her. As she hammers away at the sword she is producing, the others grow increasingly expectant. Amid this, Evil considers that he always saw his daughter as a child, but it's clear she's learned to do what's necessary. With that, the sword crafted by the talented Monica is completed just as a powerful blast is heard outside the shop. Consequently, Evil nods at Monica, who knows exactly what to do. Finally, the master of the workshop bursts through the front door, sending the two men flying as they attempt to break in. Meanwhile, Monica and Isla are left in shock, gasping at the sight of Light, gravely wounded before Zamdo. Without hesitation, Monica hurls the sword she crafted toward Light, but he remains unable to move. Amused, Zamdo remarks that giving the boy a weapon now is pointless, as he's already on the brink of death. Yet, against all odds, Light defies expectations, slowly lifting his hand toward the sword, instantly recognizing its quality more than enough to crush his enemy's face without hesitation. Zamdo thinks the kid is all talk, seeing as he can barely stand. Still confident, Light orders Isla to throw a skill fruit to him. Unfortunately, the girl's aim is off that day, and she hurls the fruit at Zamdo's feet. He picks up the magical resource and remembers that everyone can only eat this thing once in their lifetime, and that Light should be content with a sleep powder ability, which, by the way, has already been countered by Zamdo himself. Considering that eating a second fruit would lead to death, Zamdo isn't sure what Light intends with this move, but he considers that surrendering might be an interesting choice if only to preserve a bit of dignity. In response, Light acknowledges his opponent's strength, but declares that his true goal is to become an adventurer who will carve his name into history, meaning he can't afford to lose in such an unremarkable battle. Offended by the description of the threat he poses in this conflict, Zamdo instantly scowls and curses his rival as an annoying brat. Overcome with rage, he quickly attacks Light and shoves the skill fruit into his mouth. In his mind, if the boy bites the fruit, he'll die of poisoning. If he doesn't bite, he'll suffocate. Ultimately, the villain gives the sword god a chance to surrender by tapping the ground. If he does, he'll take Light away and leave the workshop in peace. Given the situation, Monica and Evil grow increasingly anxious, while Isla, fully aware of what Light is about to do, flashes a wide smile. Without hesitation, Light bites into the fruit, leaving Zamdo utterly shocked. Instantly, a whirlwind of flames erupts around them, and with a swift kick, Light sends Zamdo flying. Regaining his footing, Zamdo demands to know what just happened. Light calmly explains that he is the master of fruits, capable of consuming as many skill fruits as he pleases. Now, it's time to settle the score with this merchant of evil. Moreover, Light adds that he had expected his enemy to try forcing him to eat the fruit, knowing that Zamdo relishes in torture. Zamdo asks if the kid really expects him to believe he was manipulated, but Light confesses that Isla's terrible throw wasn't part of the plan. With that, he asks Isla to use the evaluation on him, and she discovers that Light has developed the torch flame, which allows the user to ignite fire in his own hand or on anything he's holding. At this moment, Zamdo realizes the kid wasn't kidding. Not only did he not die, but he also gained a new power by eating the fruit. Indeed, Light's actions defy all logic, making the man understand why the Holy Sister took an interest in him. Speaking of the Holy Sister, as she tends to her flowers, she suddenly senses a disruption in her plan and admits she hadn't foreseen this outcome. Meanwhile, Zamdo recalls that his orders were to capture Light alive, but given the growing risk, he summons the Lightning Lion once more, acknowledging that he'll have to play all his cards to eliminate his target. In response, as he ignites his sword in flames, Light declares that he won't be holding back either. Finally, the villain launches the feline at the boy, who destroys the creature with a single blow. This doesn't faze Zamdo, who praises his opponent's technique. Regarding this, Light assures that he can cut even lightning with this flaming blade. With that, the two adversaries shed their robes and prepare for the final showdown. At this moment, Doug and the other henchmen arrive on the battlefield after freeing themselves and are also ready for revenge, but Zamdo orders no one to interfere, as he wants all the glory for himself. Zamdo admits he won't be satisfied until he turns this kid to dust. To back up his words, he summons a lightning demon, while Light counters by conjuring a fire lion. With everything on the line, both fighters understand that this will be their final clash. As Monica silently prays for her sword to endure until the end, Isla takes her hand and urges her to trust Light, certain that he'll find a way. Meanwhile, Light himself reassures the blacksmith, confidently stating that there's no way he'll lose with this sword in hand, bringing comfort to the girl. Finally, Monica asks Light to protect the workshop with this weapon, and the two opponents charge each other with their powers. Light emits the blazing lion strike, while Zamdo attacks with Diabolos. Quickly, the two collide and create a wave of light that covers the entire territory, leaving all spectators in absolute suspense about the outcome. If, on one hand, Light uses all of his strength to push the enemy back, Zamdo matches it, and their combined efforts result in a tremendous explosion on the battlefield that emits a great flash of light. After the smoke clears, the two adversaries emerge alive from the collision. For a moment, Zamdo gathers more lightning in his hand, but his body can't handle it, causing him to collapse to the ground. Meanwhile, Light breathes heavily, on the verge of falling, yet he stands firm and lifts his sword, signaling his declared victory. As his allies begin to rejoice, his sword suddenly shatters, making him question whether the issue lies within himself. Without hesitation, he apologizes to Monica for breaking the weapon she crafted for him. However, Monica reassures him, saying it doesn't matter and promising to forge a new one that better matches his body. With that, while crying, Monica thanks Light for everything he did to protect this place. On the other hand, Doug and the other thugs draw their weapons and vow to make their enemies pay for what they did to their boss. In the same second, Light points his broken sword at the bandits, making them tremble with fear under his cold gaze. Meanwhile, a mysterious man bursts into the area with his whirlwind ability and orders the Black Swan's men to lower their weapons. One of the blacksmith apprentices identifies him as the chief of security, Tiger Beard, who immediately commands the criminal's arrest. Moments later, two security department members appear behind the leader and formally declare the bandits' capture for charges of kidnapping, extortion, and disturbing the peace. With a powerful gust of wind, Tiger Beard swiftly overpowers the henchmen, leaving them no chance to resist as the security agents escort them away. He informs the blacksmiths that someone deliberately blocked the reports of these incidents from reaching him. In any case, Evil replies that everything worked out fine thanks to Light. Meanwhile, Tiger Beard recalls that this boy was present at the meeting about the Wicked Dragon. Before he can respond, Light completely loses his strength and collapses into Tiger Beard's arms. Meanwhile, Monica kneels on the ground, overwhelmed with relief at their victory. Isla then asks what special properties Monica had infused into the new sword, but Monica admits that she hadn't done anything extraordinary, just made it as strong and durable as possible. However, despite that, the blade still ended up breaking. Other than that, she had simply wished for Light to win the fight almost like a charm. Curious about the situation, Isla concludes that this charm was responsible for the Fire Lion's formation, sparking her excitement about the mysteries of abilities. Just then, a messenger bird soars through the sky and drops a letter for Isla. It's a message from Lena, informing her that she will soon arrive in Athena. According to Isla, her companion seems to be taking longer than expected. Monica then asks if this Lena is the same person who recently gained fame as the Sword Saint, to which Isla confirms Lena is indeed part of the same group as Light and has been a loyal member of their team. Now, back with Lena, who resumes her journey after narrowly surviving an assassination attempt by a member of the Black Swan, likely acting under Draitna's orders. Seeking evidence to confirm this, Lena finally approaches the lake capital, Athena, determined to protect her group in her own way. So far, she has only one clue regarding the culprit behind this crime, a Black Swan's wing, the necromancer, Draitna. As night descends, the victors of the Bolst workshop battle gather in a tavern, celebrating with a feast overflowing with drinks, more joyful than ever. Evil remarks that he has never seen the Black Swan merchants in such a state. Noticing her father is more than a little intoxicated, Monica asks if he doesn't think he's had too much to drink. However, the man insists that now is the time to celebrate, as starting tomorrow, he will ensure his daughter returns to her former self. Meanwhile, the Holy Sister once again turns her attention to her mystical mirror, frustrated because all her plans are tearing apart. As Lena reaches her destination, the first thing she notices is a sign that reads, "Welcome to Athena, the city of fairies and the lake." A short distance away, she spots a man with pointed ears carrying a lute, calling out to passers-by to join in a special once-a-year occasion, the Athena Fairy Festival. He encourages everyone to join the festivities leading up to the fairies event, which is set to begin in just 3 days. The man gently places a flower crown on Lena's head and offers her his blessings. However, Lena isn't there to partake in the celebrations. Her mind is fixed on her mission. After all, if the secret of the Holy Sister is truly hidden here, it's possible an assassin could have been sent by her. As a result, Lena stops a couple on the street and asks about Dratna Bellberry, but the name immediately unsettles them, and they start to suspect Lena's ties to the Bellberry family. Receiving no answers, she approaches another group of people, but they, too, are visibly frightened at the mention of the Bellberry name. After being brushed off repeatedly, Lena takes a moment to reflect on what's going on, until she notices a hooded man staring directly at her before quickly walking away. Convinced he might be the assassin sent by the Holy Sister, Lena chases after him, but when she turns into the alley where he had disappeared, he's gone without a trace. Suddenly, however, Lena feels herself restrained by vines that sprout from the fingers of the mysterious man, who materializes behind her without warning. She quickly slices through the vines with her sword and lunges at her opponent, who responds by drawing his dagger and adopting a confident, almost mocking stance. Lena notes that if this man were an adventurer, he'd easily be S rank. The man remarks that the Sword Saint's reputation for exceptional swordsmanship is well deserved, but he adds that he can't allow an amateur to roam freely, suspecting her of being a spy. Naturally, his words provoke Lena, and she readies herself to continue the fight. But just as they are about to clash again, a girl intervenes, halting their duel. Lena believes she is being cornered and responds by threatening the girl. Just then, Flower Hat emerges from the shadows, revealing her face and expressing her joy at seeing Lena once more. She introduces the man as Ewan, explaining that he is one of her subordinates. According to Flower Hat, Lena has been prying too much into local matters, which prompted her to send Ewan to keep an eye on her. When Lena questions the purpose of the investigation department's presence in the city, Flower Hat informs her that they, too, are searching for Dratna. Lena is startled to realize that the girl is not supporting the Holy Sister. Flower Hat then clarifies that she takes no sides, as her role is solely to gather information. Ewan and Flower Hat go on to explain that locating Dratna is a crucial step in preventing the Wicked Dragon, and they are still examining the dragon scale that Lena presented at the meeting. So far, the only other lead they have is Dratna, who played a role in summoning the dragon. If such a menace were to arise in any city, it would spell disaster, making the mission to stop the Wicked Dragon even more urgent. However, Lena's persistent inquiries are complicating their efforts. With that, Flower Hat asks Lena to stop snooping around and bids her farewell. Nevertheless, Lena cannot return home empty-handed and also has something she wants to protect, so she asks to join the investigation team, claiming she is desperate for any information involving Dratna. Flower Hat laughs at Lena's sincerity and allows her to accompany them, but with one condition: she doesn't want to hear any complaints about their investigative methods. Ewan questions what they gain by having this woman around, and Flower Hat responds that Lena has seen Dratna's face, a piece of information not even the department has. At last, Flower Hat suggests that Lena have a meal before they begin their work, so the three of them make their way to an establishment. There, Flower Hat orders 3 portions of fresh fish meuniere, caught overnight and served with a white sauce alongside tomatoes that have been stewed for hours. Lena finds the choice rather unusual, while the waitress opens a door and gestures for them to step inside. The door leads to an underground passage, where Flower Hat's informant is waiting in a hidden tavern. Before long, Ewan hands the man a bag containing 20,000 gold in exchange for details on Dratna and her whereabouts. The informant, taken aback that someone is seeking such an unusual individual, reveals that Dratna is a daughter of the once prestigious Bellberry family. However, the family's downfall was tied to this very woman. Dratna had a passion for dancing, but at the age of 6, she acquired an unwelcome ability, necromancy. Whether by coincidence or not, misfortune struck the Bellberry family around that time. Their businesses collapsed, and the girl's mother passed away suddenly. This sparked rumors that the family was cursed, and her father, believing his daughter to be the cause due to her forbidden skill, cast her out and secluded her in a country estate. From that moment on, Dratna was shunned by everyone, left to live in isolation, with the Holy Sister being her only supporter, perhaps out of pity, as she had witnessed the moment the girl acquired her skill. The sister had even invited Dratna to the Holy City, just like many other unwanted children she had taken under her care. Flower Hat then asks about Dratna's current location, and the informant discloses that she is, in fact, in this very city. Lena is stunned to hear that Dratna survived the mansion's collapse, while the informant demands an additional fee to reveal her exact whereabouts. Ewan responds by pointing out that the agreed-upon price included all the information, but the greedy man threatens to withhold the details unless they hand over another bag of gold coins. However, Ewan has had enough of the games. Using his vines, he binds the man tightly and presses his dagger to his his throat, demanding to know Draytna's location. Lena protests, exclaiming that they are taking things too far, but Flower Hat calmly reminds her that she had agreed to stay quiet, especially since it was the informant who violated their agreement. Yuan firmly states that attempting to exploit the investigation department was a grave mistake and tightens the vines around the man. Under pressure, the informant finally confesses that Draytna is in the theater district, preparing for the fairy dance. After Yuan lets the man go, Lena voices her frustration, calling it torture. However, Flower Hat counters by explaining that valuable information isn't something you can just pluck from a tree, emphasizing the necessity of doing whatever it takes to acquire it. Meanwhile, in a grand mansion, a butler wonders if Draytna will be going out again, to which she promises to return soon. The man has no issue with his mistress going on outings, but worries her injury might worsen if she doesn't rest. However, Draytna explains that there's no time for that since the Holy Sister has chosen her to be a dancer, and she doesn't want to miss this chance to prepare as much as possible for the performance. Returning to the city, Yuan and Flower Hat explain to Lena that the Dance of the Fairies is a sacred ritual held on the final day of the Fairies Festival. They recount how the dance began 1,000 years ago, when the Fairy King defended this lake from an army of monsters. The ritual reenacts this legend, symbolizing peace and the purifying power of the fairy stone safeguards the city from disasters. Each year, daughters from esteemed city families are selected to be dancers, and a standout performance can even raise a family's standing. This time, Draytna has been chosen to perform the dance. Lena questions why Draytna chooses to remain in this city despite the painful memories it holds for her, but uncovering that reason is precisely their goal. The trio has just reached the rehearsal venue for the dancers. As they near the entrance, two men step forward, barring their way unless they can present authorization. At that moment, Flower Hat and Lena cast aside their robes, revealing their dancer attire, while Yuan takes on the role of a flutist. The guards, not recognizing who these individuals are, ask why they're carrying swords. Flower Hat clarifies that the swords are props for the choreography, as they'll be portraying warrior fairies in the performance. Eventually, the trio succeeds in gaining entry. Though Lena expresses concern because she doesn't know how to dance, Flower Hat comforts her, saying they'll find a way to manage, especially since Yuan is equally clueless about how to play the flute. At one moment, the group overhears two dancers talking about the daughter of the Bellberries, who is said to possess a forbidden ability. The two dancers plan to stay away from Draytna, worried that her ability might somehow spread to them. Hearing this, Lena wonders what kind of life this girl must have endured. Soon after, they reach a massive auditorium with a stage positioned in the center of a lake, where Draytna is dancing with two partners. Lena is shocked to see that the woman is alive and accidentally says so out loud, drawing Draytna's attention to her presence. Before Draytna can react, Yuan restrains her with his vines. With the girl now immobilized, Flower Hat demands to know the location of the wicked dragon, but Draytna insists that the monster was never under her control. Realizing their lead has hit a dead end, Flower Hat declares that she will take Draytna to the Holy City to have tracking magic used on her. Draytna begs for 2 more days, explaining that performing at the fairy ball has been her lifelong dream. Moved by her plea, Lena feels sympathy for her and asks Flower Hat to let her dance. However, Flower Hat remains unmoved and instructs Yuan to tighten his vines, keeping the suspect firmly restrained. Lena observes that the wound Draytna sustained at the mansion has yet to fully heal, while Flower Hat confidently states that, if needed, she is more than capable of dragging Draytna along. Upon hearing this, the Sword Saint contemplates how the chief investigator stops at nothing to reach her goals, using methods that, in her eyes, do not align with true justice. With this thought in mind, she severs Yuan's vines and escapes with Draytna. Yuan makes another attempt to capture the woman, but Lena intervenes, blocking him with her sword. Draytna, unable to flee because of her injury, watches as Lena uses her pendant to vault across rooftops and make her escape. Yuan does his best to pursue the fugitives, but it's already too late. Despite this, Flower Hat remains calm, stating that it's fine because Draytna won't leave the city before the fairy dance. She admits that she had initially seen Lena as a naive, kind-hearted girl, but now acknowledges that Lena showed remarkable boldness this time. Meanwhile, after running a considerable distance, the two girls stop briefly to catch their breath. Draytna asks Lena what she was thinking when she decided to save her, but even Lena struggles to explain her actions. Elsewhere in the city, on a canoe in the middle of a lake, an elf with a lute shares the legend of the fairy stone with a couple. He tells them that at the base of the enormous stone, a loyal servant of the fairy monarch has been sealed for 1,000 years. This being has maintained peace in Lake Athena, and the dance of the fairies is said to be a ritual meant to comfort him, as he left the fairy world to become the guardian of this one. However, the elf adds that no one knows what might happen to the city if cracks were to begin forming in the fairy stone. Captivated by the tale, the couple requests Mr. Bard to perform a song. Meanwhile, Light reaches 115 push-ups before being knocked down by the sleep fairy. Isla seizes the moment to complain that the boy is pushing himself too hard with excessive training and will only end up injuring himself. However, he insists that he's in peak condition and must be fully prepared to take on this S-rank mission, especially since Lena is likely pushing herself to the limit and they can't afford to lag behind. Isla reassures assures him that their friend will be fine after all. She is the Sword Saint. Light acknowledges that Lena is indeed the strongest among them, but Isla is confident that he will soon reach her level. Meanwhile, Monica dedicates herself to forging the perfect sword for Light, refusing to rest until she achieves an outstanding result. Returning to Flower Hat, she sends out several spy birds to track down the two girls, but oddly enough, they come rushing back to her in fear after only a few seconds of flight. Troubled by this, the investigator plucks a flower from her hat, only to watch it wither instantly. Realizing that something is seriously wrong, she immediately activates the eyes of the scholar ability to analyze the situation, suspecting that the source of the disturbance must be nearby. Flower Hat concludes that, in this instance, they will have to place their trust in Lena and Dratna. Back with the girls, Lena shifts her gaze to the fairy stone and observes it becoming surrounded by a shadow, which then appears to somehow seep into the stone itself. Late at night, Lena and Dratna are heading somewhere, when a confused Lena asks where they are going. Dratna explains that the house at the end of the alley is the private property of the Bellberry family, so no one will stop them from going there, and they will be able to hide there for the next few days. Dratna refuses to leave the city before her dance performance, which is in 2 days. Lena says that Flower Hat, the head of the investigation bureau, wouldn't go easy on them and hunt the entire town to look for them. She also adds that she will ask her holy sister for help, and she is sure she will protect them. Lena then urges Dratna why she attacked them at the Count's manor, but Dratna refuses to answer. Dratna mentions that she is indebted to Lena, as she saved her, but Lena quickly says that she helped her because she felt like Dratna was a good person when she saw her dance. Dratna quickly refuses this statement by saying that Lena doesn't know anything about her, but Lena says that she heard rumors about Dratna's childhood. Dratna is shocked for a second, before accepting that everyone believes that the Sword Saint took pity on Dratna and took her in. Lena remembers how Dratna used Bork and Shira's corpses to attack them, and she is unsure about why Dratna did that, but still feels like there is good left in her. They eventually reach a small festival, where 2 kids rush to them and praise them before excitedly claiming that they are looking forward to their dance. Lena realizes that the dancers are adored and respected by the citizens, but suddenly, the parents tell the children to stay away from Dratna, so they don't get cursed by her taboo skill, which makes Lena sad. They start walking again, and Dratna envies how Lena never has to face such a situation, because her Sword Saint skill is considered a good spell instead of a curse. Lena is about to disagree, when suddenly a man enters the festival while screaming hysterically and tells the people to run. Before anyone can register his words, a loud blast is heard, which is followed by the appearance of monsters. However, Lena manages to beat the monster with a single attack and orders the people to run while they can. Dratna looks up and finds various monsters in the sky and is shocked, as the fairy stone's purifying power ensures that the monsters stay away from the town. Suddenly, a young girl falls while running and a monster quickly comes to grab her, but Dratna uses her spell Necromancy to use the dead monster and attack the alive ones. The locals of the town are shocked that Dratna is fighting for them, but before they can think much of it, they hear another scream and see a dragon-like monster blowing fire on a family, which is protected by a shield made by a small unicorn. Lena rushes to help the unicorn and the dragon roars loudly, but Lena quickly uses her spell Trapezista and thinks she has defeated the monster. However, before she can celebrate, another monster unexpectedly shows up and Lena is about to fall, when Dratna uses a spell to merge the dead monsters and forms a Puritan who saves them. Lena thanks Dratna, who warns Lena against being reckless, but Lena says that she wants to help as many people as she can. Dratna quickly says that Lena can only be so positive because she was born with a good skill, but Lena disagrees, saying that Dratna also saved people using her skill today. They wonder if the unicorn has accidentally separated from its parents, but the unicorn starts hissing while looking at the sky with hostility. When the girls look up, they see a black mist forming and realize that it is a portal from which horrible monsters are coming out. The locals think their fate has been sealed when an exceptionally giant monster emerges, but before he can attack them, a man named Ewan shows up and finishes the monster easily. Flower Hat follows him and jokes about how Ewan's methods are always so cruel and quick. She quickly announces for the locals to head to the cathedral, where they will be protected, as it is the oldest building in the town and is equipped with an old defense mechanism that serves as a perfect barrier. She further explains that she has ordered the guards on night duty to guide the locals to a safe place. She then seriously turns to Lena and Dratna while asking them to reflect on their behavior in the theater, before dismissing it herself by saying that they have more harsh things to deal with right now. She tells the girls to follow her, and on their way, they notice that the black mist keeps expanding. Dratna suddenly notices that the mist is gathering in the center of the lake, and Flower Hat tells them that's where they are going. Dratna resists jumping right into the horror, as she thinks it is a terrible idea, but Flower Hat excitedly tells her that there is no fun in life if one isn't ready for adventures. They all get on a boat that will take them to the center of the lake, and Flower Hat raises a light barrier around the cathedral, which ensures the protection of the people. On the other side, a musician sitting in the middle of the mist, named Argos, admits that the town has pretty strong strong people as they can form barriers of light, but doesn't think of it much as he believes he is far stronger. Meanwhile, Light is working on his physical training as Monica's father watches from afar. He then goes to Monica and tells her that he has gathered all the material she needs, before telling her to take it easy, as she has been working very hard lately. However, she tells him that the sword she made for Light broke in a battle and wants to make a stronger sword for him, so he can go on adventures again. She even explains that Light pretends that he is in rehabilitation, but trains from early morning till late night, and that motivates her to work harder as well. Isla sleeps on a box while Light tells himself to get as strong as possible, so he can get to Lena. Back at the lake, Flower Hat explains that a portal called Miasma has been opened, and the fairy stone, instead of repelling the miasma, is bringing it closer to the town, as someone has transformed the repelling power to an attracting one. They ask Flower Hat what she plans to do, and she casually replies that they are going to destroy the fairy stone, because if they don't, the mist will combine with the lake, which will turn the entire lake into a miasma pouring out heinous monsters. This angers Dratna, as fairy stone is highly respected by the locals as their protector, but Flower Hat insists that it's the only way of stopping the miasma from filling the entire lake. Dratna still insists that doing anything to harm the fairy stone is considered a serious crime, but Flower Hat questions that since when Dratna cares about the town. Dratna quickly refuses to care about the townspeople, and explains that the dance of the fairies will have no meaning if the fairy stone isn't there to be a holy object. Flower Hat tells them that protecting the city is her primary concern, and this is the only way. They are then confronted by Argos, who summons a gigantic monster, but Lena uses it as bait to attack Argos. However, Argos doesn't get injured as he has been hiding under a disguise and explains that his mission is to exterminate lesser species so he can reclaim the land. He calls a large number of monsters from different portals and unleashes them on the group. Flower Hat quickly tells them to try to destroy the stone as that would close the miasma, but Ewan explains that their mobility is limited on the water, hence they are at a disadvantage. Dratna realizes that she is the only one who can fly, but the unicorn creates a crystal pathway for Lena to reach the fairy stone. Argos thinks how arrogant Lena is to think that she can destroy the stone, but his attention is diverted by a blade glazing his cheek. He turns around to see Flower Hat, who tells him that she will deal with him. Argos angrily sends a monster to destroy the boat, and Lena screams in worry, but Ewan tells her to focus on her work, as Flower Hat is the head of the bureau and can manage herself. So Lena continues to rush towards the fairy stone. Meanwhile, Argos tells Flower Hat that he has heard a lot about her and knows that her skill is Scholar's Eye, which specializes in investigation and holds no power against Argos. He starts to summon his attack, but Flower Hat blows it before it can reach full form. She explains that in this world, there are a few forbidden books that grant techniques just by looking at them, and that there are 48 volumes of such books. She explains she has learned from all of them, and uses her first spell of Ice Spark simultaneously with Stone Play, which results in her destroying all the monsters in her way. This angers Argos, and he decides to send more monsters her way, but she uses a spell called Bird Cage to trap all the newly summoned monsters. Flower Hat quickly tells Lena and Dratna to destroy the fairy stone, but Dratna has another outburst saying that nothing will protect the city if the stone is destroyed, and this makes Lena wonder if they should destroy the stone or think of other ways to save the city. As Lena contemplates, Flower Hat tells Lena that this is not a command, and that Lena is free to do whatever she thinks is right. She thinks that if Light was here, he would have found a way to protect everyone without destroying the stone, but realizes that she is not strong enough to find other options and heads to destroy the fairy stone. Lena tells Dratna that she will accept the blame for the destruction of the stone and breaks it with a single powerful attack. Agros is shocked and claims that he didn't expect them to break the holy fairy stone, but tells them they were too late, and suddenly large spirals emerge from the water. The spirals connect with the black mist, and Argos calls for the awakening of the water god. Flower Hat warns them that their final monster is here, and Dratna claims with shock that it's the wicked dragon. The water god attacks with a powerful beam, and Dratna quickly pushes Lena out of the way, but the attack hits a few buildings in the city. Flower Hat tells them not to panic as the entire city has been evacuated, but Dratna is still in pain as the theater where the fairy dance is conducted suffered from the attack. Argos laughs menacingly and claims that they are fools to believe they stand a chance, as he plans to destroy them along with the entire city. Dratna shakes with fear, thinking they stand no chance against the water god, but Lena takes a firm stance and asks Dratna to lend them her strength so they can protect the city together. However, Dratna notices that Lena's hands are shaking and jokingly makes a comment about how only Lena can give a motivational speech while shivering. Lena claims that the shaking will stop once they start attacking the monster, and a light emerges out of both the girls, who get ready for the battle. The wicked dragon unleashes many other attacks, destroying the area near the cathedral, and the citizens start to get anxious, thinking the light barrier won't hold for long. However, a young boy says that everything is going according to the fairy tale called Fairy King, saying that they shouldn't worry, as once upon a time, the fairies destroyed a lot of monsters. His mother tells him that the book is a fairy tale and asks him to go inside, but suddenly an attack shakes the cathedral, which makes everyone more scared. However, the boy remains firm, saying that their savior will arrive soon. Meanwhile, Flower Hat uses magic to hold the monsters still while Yuan destroys them. However, Flower Hat falls and Yuan tells her she is overexerting herself by using forbidden magic. The wicked dragon makes another large attack that causes a fire in the city, and Yuan says that they have to defeat the monsters somehow. So Flower Hat tells the girls that the only way to protect the city is to eliminate the wicked dragon. Lena asks Dreitna if she can stop the movement of the wicked dragon for only 5 seconds, and Dreitna is alarmed by the idea of Lena charging forward. But Lena tells her that she might be able to make a sword attack if she can get close to the monster. Dreitna agrees and uses her skill Necromancy to merge the dead monsters into a kraken, which is a huge sea monster. But Dreitna quickly tells Lena that this monster will only last a few seconds. Dreitna uses the legs of kraken to constrict the monster, and Lena quickly rushes forward, aiming for the neck. As it isn't protected by any scales, she uses her trapezista skill, thinking she has defeated the wicked dragon, but Argos only laughs at them. The tentacles holding the wicked dragon start melting, and Flower Hat quickly informs them to not touch the monster anymore, as it will decay everything that comes in touch with it. The monster doesn't die and launches an attack on Dreitna's kraken, easily destroying it. Argos continues to menacingly laugh and comments that such a great monster cannot be destroyed by an inferior sword. Argos merges with the dragon and asks them if they're scared of this mighty monster before launching a huge attack on the city. He glows bright, and Flower Hat comments that the white light emerging from Argos is a skill. Yuan is surprised that Argos used a skill to resurrect the wicked dragon, but Flower Hat says it's not a resurrection skill instead. It is a possession skill, as the wicked dragon won't be defeated unless they beat Argos first. Dreitna asks how they can defeat him, as the method they used earlier didn't work, but Lena tells her to distract them again, as she wants to try another move. Flower Hat thinks of how the reversal of the fairy stone and the summoning of the monsters weren't caused by any skills, which shocks Argos. He says that the smart ones should be eliminated first and uses his skill Mist Breath to attack Flower Hat, who uses Demon Blaze as a counterattack. The attacks are both strong, and Flower Hat praises Argos, because if anyone else was in her place they would have been smashed to death. However, Flower Hat's power is no match to wicked dragons, and Yuan has to push Flower Hat out of the way so she doesn't get hurt. Lena shouts her name in worry, but Yuan and Flower Hat safely land on the shore. However, they are now away from the main battlefield and have no way to get to the center of the lake, so Flower Hat has no choice but to trust the girls to beat the monster. Meanwhile, Argos mocks the girls, saying there is nothing they can do, and launches another attack, which Dreitna blocks using her skill. However, she is barely able to tackle one attack when Wicked Dragon uses another one called the Rot Breath, so Lena steps forward and makes a shield around her using Saint Sword's magic resistance. But the dragon's attack is too strong, and it breaks the shield. Lena falls, but she is glad that the attack didn't hit the city. However, Argos laughs, saying it is amusing to see the weak struggle. Lena thinks of how she has grown stronger now, as she's able to land attacks on the enemy, and is determined that her sword will destroy the dragon. Lena tells Argos that he seems confident, but he shouldn't underestimate a saint's sword. However, Argos only mocks her, saying that she is talking big for someone who is so drained from the fight. Argos makes the strongest attack yet, called Calamity Breath, and Dreitna is scared, but Lena jumps forward into the attack. The unicorn jumps with Lena, and she feels something entering her mind. She witnesses some memories of a war between monsters and gods, Lena leading the fairies and the king granting her a magical sword in front of a magical unicorn. A bright light surrounds Lena, and once the light dims, the hand of the wicked dragon gets cut. Everyone is confused about what happened, and it is revealed that Lena has received the blessing of the fairies, which led her to evolve into a new form. The Holy Sister looks at the scene using her fortune-telling abilities and wonders why there are two strong stars in one place. Her assistant comes asking what's wrong and gets shocked while looking at the Holy Sister. Meanwhile, Dreitna says that during times of difficulty, the king grants his beloved knights wings of green silver and a sword of purification. Just like the legend of the Fairy King, Lena is the chosen knight and now has power backed up by the unicorn, the great Pegasus, and the king. Argos still isn't disturbed and only mocks Lena, saying that new wings and swords can't defeat him, as the wicked dragon is the greatest of all demons. He is about to attack Lena, but Lena, with newfound powers, quickly teleports and cuts the leg of the demon using her skill Eclairus. She tells Argos she doesn't have time to waste in talking, and Yuan becomes hopeful that Lena might destroy the wicked dragon. Flower Hat agrees, saying that this type of speed and flying ability isn't something gifted to normal sword saints. She excitedly wonders what the source of this power is and decides that she will investigate the transformation with a new childlike shine in her eyes. She tells Yuan to use his vines to take them to the battle area, but Yuan refuses, saying Flower Hat doesn't have the strength to actively participate in the fight. However, Flower Hat tells him that her desire for knowledge has revived her. Meanwhile, Lena feels weird to fly, but says that she surprisingly knows how to use the powers she has been gifted. She feels like something inside her mind is teaching her how to use it. Argos gets annoyed at Lena moving around so much and makes various attacks, but Lena swiftly dodges all of them. She thinks of how the sword is so big, yet it feels so light, and hits Argos with the flat end of her blade. Flower Hat is amazed by her attacks and asks if Yuan is also watching the fight, but Yuan tells her that he is busy trying to make a boat for them. Flower Hat wonders where the small unicorn has gone, but doesn't think much of it. Argos starts getting frustrated, loudly stating that he believed the wicked dragon and his possession skill would be an undefeatable combination, but quickly realizes that his goal isn't to defeat Lena, as he came here to destroy the city. He starts attacking the city and directs his largest to the cathedral. Flower Hat quickly realizes that he wants to destroy the light barrier protecting the people. While the cathedral shakes badly, before the attack can break the barrier, Lena cuts the breath in half with her sword, and everyone is fascinated by her power. Argos doesn't seem intimidated, as he says that he will keep blasting attacks till the barrier is broken. But Lena interrupts his monologue, saying this fight ends here. She fixes her sword into the wicked dragon and uses the new spell called petrification, which starts turning the dragon into stone. Argos is shocked that he is about to lose to a girl, and Flower Hat comments that the miasma is starting to disappear. The dragon fully turns into stone and falls lifeless into the lake. Witnessing the entire thing, Dratna praises Lena's power and comments on how the fairy stone was destroyed. But Lena still managed to protect the Pegasus. Argos, who is half stuck in the wicked dragon, laments his loss. But Lena puts a sword on his neck, demanding all information he knows. Argos thinks of how Lena belongs to a party of women called Sacred that serve under the Holy Sister, and wonders if the Holy Sister knew that the Sword Saint would evolve. He thinks of how the Holy Sister is from the same country as him, yet he can't fully trust her and wonders if she used him. He thinks that he doesn't have any reason to stay in this world anymore and says that there will forever be a fight between monsters and fairies before disappearing. Lena tries to attack but misses him. Once he disappears, Lena's wings and sword go back to normal and the unicorn appears behind her, which makes Lena realize that the unicorn fought with her. Dratna comes there quickly and asks Lena if she's okay. Flower Hat uses another forbidden trick called Foam Sheep, which causes bubbles to surround the girls and quickly heal their injuries. Flower Hat excitedly claims that the fight was fascinating and praises the girls before light-heartedly saying that Yuan doubted their win. Dratna admits that she was useless in the fight, but Lena thanks her for fighting with her and giving her strength. On the other side, Light is busy training for the day, and just as he finishes his 100th set of training, Isla brings him food. He gets excited to see that there is pizza for dinner and quickly eats all the food. Once he finishes, she tells him it's finally time to sleep, but he says that he feels energized again, so he will train another 100 sets. As he gets back to training, Isla comments on how he might vomit the food if he doesn't let it digest, but Light pays no attention to her remarks and continues the training. Monica is still working on the perfect sword for Light, but feels frustrated as she keeps making mistakes. However, her father encourages her, saying that those who learn from their mistakes make better products. He suddenly asks Monica what her plan is, which makes her confused. She asks him what he means by that, and he tells her that a blacksmith can never make a great sword unless they are aware of what's inside the heart of the person who will use the sword. Monica says that she is well aware of this fact, so her father tells her that if she is making the sword for Light, there is no point in her staying in the town while he adventures, suggesting that she should explore the world with him. Flower Hat lowers the light shield and the people return to their houses. Meanwhile, Lena apologizes to Flower Hat, saying that she regrets letting Argos slip away, as she was planning to get information about where he came from. Flower Hat comforts her by saying that she protected the city with all her might, and she adds that Argos dropped something. Upon asking, she reveals that it's a talisman, a tool made in the ancient Zelim civilization, further explaining that each talisman acts similarly to having another skill, and only a dozen exist in today's world. Yuan wonders what the pattern of an upside-down bat drawn on the talisman means, and Flower Hat tells him that it is the same as a reversal skill. She mentions that Argos used the talisman to reverse the purifying effect of the fairy stone, and then used the miasma to summon monsters. Lena is impressed and comments on how Flower Hat didn't even need to consult a book to evaluate the situation. However, she only smirks and excitedly holds onto the talisman, claiming that this valuable material will now be under her care. Lena hesitantly asks if the danger has been eliminated, and Flower Hat assures her that the threat has gone. Before questioning the sudden power Lena was granted, Lena tells her that she thinks the small unicorn became the wings and the sword, which doesn't sound real to Dratna. However, before Lena can resolve Dratna's doubts, a bright light shines from the fairy stone and the fairy king emerges. Lena quickly claims that this was the man she saw in her dreams when her powers were being granted, and the girls are shocked by the appearance of the fairy king, who reveals that his name is Obel. Obel says that this is the mirage-like tangible form that he left behind in the fairy world, but Flower Hat, with stars in her eyes, cuts him off excitedly, claiming that she doesn't believe the legendary fairy king emerged thousands of years later. She quickly takes out her magnifying glass and starts investigating him, asking him about his hobbies, skills, or favorite food. Yuan tries to stop her from asking useless questions, but Obel answers her inquiries, saying his hobby is composing poetry. He is about to tell them about his skill when Yuan once again interrupts them, saying they have more important things to discuss. Dratna asks if he gave the power of the wings to Lena, and he clarifies that it wasn't specifically him. He explains that he gave his power to his family, and one of them, called Sirendoros, shared his power with her. Flower Hat questions who Sirendoros is, and Obel reveals that it is the unicorn sealed inside the fairy stone. Lena says that when she gained the powers, her memory was flooded with scenes of Obel and Sirendoros fighting a war against the monsters. Obel says that after multiple hardships, the fairies achieved a narrow victory against the demons, but despite their victory, their land was reduced to ashes. It was destroyed to the point that it wasn't suitable for life and would take years to recover. To maintain the necessary regenerating power of the land, a life had to be sealed inside the fairy stone, so Sirendoros volunteered to give his life. Lena feels pity for Sirendoros, as being locked up alone for centuries is a very painful idea to her. Obel explains that the small unicorn is a form of the trapped unicorn, who responded to Lena's desperate urge to protect the land. He expresses his gratitude to Lena and her friends for saving the land from demons, and says that Sirendoros is very delighted to see this end. Obel says now that Sirendoros has fulfilled his role, he will vanish into the air. Before leaving, Obel warmly looks at the lake, saying that it has regained its liveliness, as he is seeing it after 1,000 years, and says it is all fruit of Sirendoros' dedication, but then quickly corrects himself, saying that the people who live here have made this place a home. He claims that the lives of these people give meaning to their sacrifices, and now he leaves their future in the hands of new warriors as the old guardians fade away. Flower Hat asks if Obel is going to vanish too, and he confirms that this is his last appearance. He requests the girls to show Sirendoros the dance of fairies once before he parts, so he can carry good memories with him forever, and Dratna agrees. She tells Obel that it's not the time of the festival, and the theater has been destroyed, but she believes that the dance of fairies is still significant. Lena wishes Dratna the best of luck for the dance, but Dratna reveals that Lena will dance with her, which shocks Lena. Dratna says that Lena is wearing the costume as well and drags her along. Meanwhile, in the cathedral, a young girl points towards a stone in the lake, saying that the dancers are getting ready for a dance. This catches the attention of the people, and they gather around to look. The people wonder why the girls are going to dance in this circumstance and are about to badmouth them, till one man suggests that maybe they are dancing because of the hardship they overcame. On the other side, Lena tries to make an excuse that she doesn't know how to dance, but Dratna insists, saying that once Lena learns one cycle, the rest is the repetition of the same movement. The musicians in the cathedral start playing instruments, and the girls dance to its beat. Everyone can't help but appreciate their act, but one woman realizes that Dratna, the cursed Bellberry girl, is one of the dancers. However, the man standing next to her quickly takes a stand for Dratna, saying that she fought the monsters for everyone's safety and praises her dance. The surroundings fill with praises, and even Flower Hat throws flower petals at the dancing girls. However, in the middle of the dance, Lena jumps down to another rock and tells Dratna that she wants to watch her dance. Dratna dances alone, and the children are fascinated by the amazing solo performance she displays. While dancing, Dratna thinks of the harsh treatment she got since childhood because of her dark magic skill, but the thought is interrupted by Lena, who truly accepted Dratna and helped her realize her true self. The fairy stone eventually turns into dust and Dratna cries, while the crowd cheers loudly. Obel praises her dance, before saying that the spirit of Sirendoros will always be with them. However, Flower Hat believes that the small unicorn is the reincarnation of Sirendoros, and excitedly says he will be a great test subject. Obel interrupts her excitement and tells Lena to take the new Sirendoros on a beautiful journey with her, as he wants the unicorn to run freely in this life. Lena says that he needs a new name for this life and calls him Siron, and Obel smiles before disappearing. Flower Hat is sad as she thinks she could have asked many questions, and Yuan scolds her for asking useless questions, when suddenly Lena faints. A few hours later, she regains consciousness. She finds Siron is by her side and comments on how beautiful the sunset is. She goes out to find that she is in a hotel's VIP room, as it is natural to need some rest after a tiring battle. The butler hears this and quickly rushes to thank Lena for saving them. He tells her that the Holy Sister has provided the Night Watch squad with better weapons to defend the city, which shocks everyone. He adds that she arrived with a group of henchmen today, city, as the fairy stone's protection is now gone, so the city is vulnerable to monsters. Once he leaves, Flower Hat expresses her distress, saying that no matter how fast word travels, the weapons can't arrive so quickly unless the Holy Sister had planned it all. Yuen questions if the Holy Sister knew that the fairy stone would be destroyed, and Flower Hat thinks that the situation is far more serious than it seems. Flower Hat asks if they know what Holy Sister's skill is, and Lena answers that it's appraisal. However, Flower Hat corrects her, saying appraisal is only the official skill, as the higher-ups believe that her real skill is foreseeing the future, and she receives revelations from heaven. Everyone is shocked, so Lena says that the Holy Sister appraised her skill as a sword saint, and Dratna says the same happened with her. But Flower Hat says that it is possible that the Holy Sister saw their future and guessed their skills. She says that the attack of Wicked Dragon on the former Count's manor and then on Athena happened too close to be a coincidence, and the girls were the center of both events. Flower Hat thinks that their battles against the two wicked dragons are part of a horrible plan, but Dratna tries to side with the Holy Sister, so Flower Hat tells her to open her eyes to reality. Flower Hat tells them that they will come with her as she further investigates the situation. While Yuen believes she is doing all this to protect the girls, Lena realizes that she was forced to go to the Holy City when she acquired her skill, and since then she has been acting according to the Holy Sister's predictions. Lena thinks that Holy Sister's efforts to get rid of Light could be a part of her plan as well. Lena quickly agrees to go with Flower Hat, and Dratna claims that she will join them as well, but she quickly adds that she will not betray the Holy Sister just because of some speculation. Flower Hat thinks that things might get tense, but Dratna can choose the side she wants later. Lena wants to help with the restoration of the city before they leave, and Flower Hat tells them that she will be taking rest for the next few days, so the girls are free to do whatever they want. On the other side, Isla helps her mother make pizza dough, and her mother praises her, saying it is difficult to prepare so much food alone. Suddenly Light calls Isla, who goes out to see he is practicing his new torch flame skill, and Isla is glad that Light is fully recovered. In that moment, a small blue light reaches them, and Lena explains that this is a firefly crab, which allows them to talk even when far away, and she asks them about their life. After giving them an update on hers, she tells him to wait for her, and they both tell each other to be careful before ending the call. On the other side, the Holy Sister tells her assistant that things went in the city as she expected, and now, the Formido Woods are their next target. She says that the Fruit Master must be removed soon, and Noah asks if he might cause a problem in Holy Sister's fate-disrupting plan if he is not eliminated. She quickly warns Noah to never speak those words outside of their room, and says it's time to begin her final plan. Meanwhile, Monica presents Light's new sword called Homura, and Light feels great power just by holding it. She also presents the new coat she made for him, and he thanks her. Light and Isla head for their new mission, but Monica starts following them. Upon questioning, she reveals that she wants to join them, as seeing Light use the sword she made will give her motivation to make the ultimate sword for him. She says that Homura is still a prototype, and she wishes to make the perfect sword for him. Light tells her that she can join him, and all three head to the adventure. When they reach the Holy City for the mission, an S-rank solo adventurer named Scene is standing there and tells them that she has been ordered to join their group. So Light welcomes her warmly, and together they set off on their new adventure. That was the end. Watch this next video on screen and subscribe to not miss more recaps.